Hello everyone. In this video, we will see how to move a database from one server to another. In this case, we will be moving the databases from Remote SQL Server to our local SEC server, which is open in front of you. As you can see, we have two servers which are in the servers group. One's called Sophos EC, which is Sophos Enterprise Console 5.5.0, and we have a Sophos database server. They are both protected and reporting correctly to our enterprise console. Now we have a couple of test policies as well made, just to be sure that when we move the database over, we are able to see all the changes have been brought in successfully. And the KB article for this would be 22468, and we'll be following this KB article in this short video. As you already know that to know the database server or the instance name which the Sophos Enterprise Console is using by the means of registry, which is located over here. You can see under management tools, there is a string called database connection MS, and you can see the name of the database, which is Sophos 550, and the data source is Sophos-DP, which is the server name, and Sophos is the instance name. Also, just to show you that we do not have any database components or any instance of SQL running on this particular server. Now let's verify everything on the database server. This is our Sophos-DP, and this is the name of the instance, and we can see the databases Sophos 550, patch 52, and Sophos security. Alright, so let's begin. So the first step to move a database around from a server to server would be to back up the existing databases using a script which we have, and the instructions are given in this KB article which I have open over here. So right now we will be using backupdb.bat, which is a batch file, and before we take a backup we have to stop these three services so that they do not interfere during the backup. So we will be using this script to back up the databases, and to show the usage options we can scroll down a little bit, and it says here that we have to use the batch file. Where do we want to backup? Where do we want to save the backup, and the instance name and the database name. Now in my case, I am using Sophos Enterprise Console 5.5.0, hence these three databases. I have written down all the scripts here just for the sake of ease, and let's now take a backup of the databases. So the backup of the databases have completed successfully, and we can confirm the presence of these databases in C Windows temp Sophos backup, which I initially gave in the command. The second step would be to create a new database by running the Sophos Enterprise Console installer and selecting only the database role for installation. So it is a prerequisite that the sec server, which is also the destination where we are moving the databases, should have a Sophos instance installed. So we are going to install a copy of SQL Express 2012 on the sec server. The second step in the KBA says that we have to run the Sophos Enterprise Console installer and selecting only the database component. But we will not be doing that because we are not moving the remote SQL databases to another SQL instance, but we are moving it to the local instance only. So we are going to take a manual approach here. As you can see, the local instance is also called Sophos. And in Add Remove Programs, you can see that we have successfully installed SQL Express 2012. These are the scripts which we will be using. I have put them in a notepad for the sake of better clarity. And let's go ahead and create the databases manually. Before we run the commands, we have to make sure that we have a local group called Sophos DB admins, which has a group scope of domain local, and the database user should be added in it. And if we want to make sure that all the databases have been installed successfully or created, we can use this command and it will show you all the three databases which we just created manually. These are the three databases which I copied over from the Sophos-DB database, and we are going to restore it as per the KB article 110380. So I have created these three commands to restore the databases. Now, while I was taking the database, I did not rename it to 550. It's just the file name and it doesn't relate anything to the databases. So I'm going to make sure it's 550 DB and I'll make the change here as well. So these commands will restore the databases, the backup of the databases onto these database names, which I just showed you in the previous section. So all three commands have been successful in restoring the database from our remote DB server to the local SEC server. Now let's move on to step 4, which says stop the following services if they exist. As per the sixth step, we have to make a change in the registry which says the database connection MS. Now we have to edit the database server backslash database instance name to point out to the new local server slash instance. Now, the database connection string, let's copy it on a notepad. Now, previously it was Sophos db slash Sophos, but now it's local. The instance is local, so we can write it as local slash Sophos. The article also says that if the username or password used to connect to the new SQL server is different than the previous one, we'll also have to change the database user, but in this case, we are not. So this confirms the end of the sixth step. Now, as we are on sec 5.5, we'll also need to modify the following data for the patch database. We can skip the eighth step and we can jump directly on ninth, which says we have to make a few changes for the Sophos security database. That brings us to the final step of the migrations of the databases, and we will start these services. As we can see, all the test policies which we had created, or I showed you in the beginning of this video, they are as it is. And we can also see all the groups are there and these two computers. But now the database is housed locally on the SEC server and we can safely delete or move the databases on the remote database server. Thank you.